I sold my house for $847,000 on a Friday morning, transferred my entire life savings to 3 charities by noon, and bought a one-way ticket to Portugal by 2 p.m. By the time my phone started exploding with missed calls, 63 of them, all from my 4 children, I was already at Logan Airport, boarding pass in hand, watching them realize too late that the inheritance they'd been quietly counting on was gone. 24 hours earlier, I'd set a table for 5, roasted a $200 cut of beef for 6 hours, baked a 3-layer lemon cake from my dead mother's recipe, polished silver that came over from Ireland in 1912. I was turning 90 years old, and I wanted one thing: my children at my table. Daniel, the cardiologist from Boston; Patricia, the Manhattan lawyer; Michael with his Seattle tech startup; Caroline, my baby, the real estate developer. Just them. Just me. Just one dinner to prove that 63 years in this house meant something. That I meant something. 7 o'clock came, empty chairs. 8 o'clock, still empty. 9 o'clock, nothing. Then the text started coming in. Daniel: Mom, you've already passed your time for celebrating these things. It's not realistic at your age. Patricia: you need to accept where you are in life. These big gatherings are exhausting for everyone. Michael: can't make it. Caroline sent a GIF, a birthday candle, and a heart emoji. I sat at that table until midnight, crying into a cake no one would eat, staring at 5 empty place settings, and something inside me didn't break. It clarified. I'd spent 90 years being available, being understanding, being the good mother who forgave everything, who made excuses, who waited by the phone. My husband Thomas died 11 years ago, and I've been slowly disappearing ever since, becoming invisible, becoming an obligation they managed with text messages and holiday phone calls. Past your time. Those 3 words did what nothing else could. They woke me up. By 6 a.m., I'd called Morris Hendricks, the sharpest real estate attorney in Portland. By 9, I was in his office signing papers. By noon, Sotheby's was in my house tagging everything for auction. The Steinway piano worth $15,000 that Daniel took lessons on and quit. The Waterford crystal. The grandfather clock that came from Germany in 1898. The china my grandmother carried across the Atlantic. Everything. Every piece of the life I'd built. The museum I'd maintained for children who couldn't be bothered to visit. The bank transfers took 8 minutes. $743,000 to St. Andre's Home for Unwed Mothers, Catholic Charities, Maine, and the Portland Education Foundation. Jerry Preston at the bank tried to talk me out of it. Said I should discuss it with my children. Said there were tax implications. I told him my children had made their choice, and now I was making mine. The plane ticket cost $3,000. One way. Business class, because what the hell was I saving for now? I didn't tell them. Didn't ask permission. Didn't give them a chance to talk me out of it or perform concern they didn't feel when it mattered. I just did it. I checked into the Portland Harbor Hotel because I couldn't spend another night in that house, in that bed where Thomas died, in those rooms full of memories that turned out to mean nothing to anyone but me. I turned off my phone and sat by the window watching the harbor, feeling lighter than I had in years. When I finally turned it back on Saturday morning, my phone nearly exploded. 174 missed calls, 87 voicemails, 312 texts. My children suddenly desperate to reach me, suddenly concerned about my well-being, suddenly full of opinions about my mental state. The voicemails were predictable. Daniel talking about psychiatric evaluations, Patricia mentioning emergency guardianship, Michael calling me insane for giving away our inheritance. Not my money, our inheritance. Like they'd earned it by being born. Only Caroline cried, actually cried. Said she was sorry. Said she should have been there. But sorry doesn't pay rent when you're 90. Caroline found me at the hotel. Showed up at my room crying, begging me not to go. Not to do this. saying they'd made a mistake, but it didn't justify throwing my whole life away. I told her I wasn't throwing it away. I was taking it back. She asked if I really thought they only cared about the money. I told her I thought they cared about me when it was convenient, and 90 years of convenient was enough. The group chat I wasn't supposed to see told me everything I needed to know. Daniel saying I wasn't thinking straight. Patricia talking about filing for guardianship. Michael saying this is what happens when old people live alone too long. Only Caroline pushed back, asked when any of them had actually visited, actually shown up for anything that wasn't a major holiday or crisis. They still don't understand. They think this is about one missed birthday. They think this is a breakdown, a phase, something that can be fixed with apologies and promises to do better. They're wrong. This is about 11 years of slow erasure. This is about becoming a phone call they make out of guilt, a visit they schedule around their real lives, an obligation they manage instead of a person they love. This is about my husband dying and realizing that, without him, I didn't exist to them anymore, except as a future inheritance and an aging to-do list. This is about Daniel telling me I'd passed my time, like I'm expired milk. Like at 90, I don't deserve to celebrate still being alive. And none of them, not one, contradicted him in that moment. Only later, only after the money was gone, did they suddenly have opinions about how wrong he was. The auction went live Sunday. I watched strangers bid on my life. The piano sold for $18,000 in 20 minutes. The grandfather clock for $11,000. The china, the silver, the paintings, the quilts I'd sewn by hand for each of my children when they were born, and they didn't want because they were too old-fashioned. All of it scattered to people who'd never know the stories. By evening, 70% was sold. By Monday morning, everything would be gone. I blocked all their numbers Sunday night, sent one final message. I'm safe. I'm leaving Monday. This is not up for discussion. I love you, but I'm done. Don't contact me until I'm ready. Caroline found a way around the block, used a friend's phone to beg me not to go, said they needed me. I told her they needed me Thursday, and it was too late now. Monday morning, 4 a.m., I left Portland in a taxi driven by a young Portuguese man who played fado music and told me I'd love his country. We drove past my old life in the pre-dawn darkness, and I didn't look back once. At Logan Airport, the TAP Air Portugal agent looked at my one-way ticket, my single suitcase, my 90-year-old face traveling alone with no family waiting, and she smiled. "Then you make new family," she said. "Portuguese people are very warm." I made it through security, through the terminal, to the gate. My phone buzzed one last time before I boarded. I'd unblocked them just to see if there was anything at all, that might change my mind. "Daniel, you're making the biggest mistake of your life." Patricia, "This is elder abuse even if you're doing it to yourself." Michael, "Don't expect us to bail you out when you run out of money." Caroline, "Mama, I love you. Please be safe. Please come home." I read them all. Then I powered off the phone completely. I'm writing this from seat 4A, 30,000 feet over the Atlantic. A glass of wine I probably shouldn't drink with my medication sitting on my tray table, watching the sun rise over an ocean that separates me from everything I've ever known. My children think I'm running away. They think I'm having a breakdown. They think this is about money or spite or some kind of senile rebellion. They're wrong. This is about the fact that I spent 90 years being someone's something, someone's wife, someone's mother, someone's obligation. And I woke up at my birthday table with nobody there and realized I'd forgotten to be Margaret. Just Margaret. Not the woman who sacrificed everything. Not the widow who kept the house like a shrine. Not the mother who forgave everything and expected nothing. Just a person who deserved to be shown up for. In 6 hours, I'll land in Lisbon, a city I've never seen, where I don't speak the language, where I know exactly No one. I have enough money to live comfortably for maybe 5 years if I'm careful. After that, who knows? Maybe I'll run out. Maybe I'll die alone in a country that isn't mine. Maybe my children will get a phone call someday from a Portuguese hospital and feel whatever they feel about that. Or maybe I'll finally figure out what it means to live for myself instead of for everyone else. Maybe at 90, I'll finally start. The flight attendant just asked if I need anything. I told her I'm fine, and for the first time in longer than I can remember, I meant it. I woke up on the morning of my 90th birthday to the sound of seagulls fighting over something dead on Munjoy Hill. That's Portland for you. Beautiful Victorian homes with ocean views, and nature reminding you that everything dies eventually, gets picked apart, gets forgotten. The November light came through my bedroom window the way it always did, cold and gray, turning everything the color of old photographs. I'd lived in this house since 1962, when Thomas carried me over the threshold with his strong carpenter's arms. Both of us 27 and stupid with hope. The mortgage cost $92 a month back then. We thought we were rich just to have a place of our own. I ran my hand over Thomas's side of the bed, a habit I still hadn't broken 11 years after burying him. The sheets were cold. They were always cold now. Some mornings I woke up and forgot he was gone, would start to tell him about a dream I'd had, and then I'd remember. The remembering was worse than the loneliness. But today wasn't a day for sadness. Today was my 90th birthday, and my children were coming home. I'd been planning this dinner for 6 weeks. Not just planning, preparing, the way you prepare for something sacred. I'd ordered the beef roast from Brown Trading Company, the good cut that costs $40 a pound, because this wasn't a day for saving money. I'd handwritten the invitations on cream stationery, the kind with my initials embossed at the top, Margaret Eleanor Holloway, because I wanted them to know this mattered. This was formal. This was important. Daniel confirmed 3 weeks ago. Wouldn't miss it, Mom. Patricia's assistant sent a calendar invitation that I didn't fully understand, but Caroline helped me accept over FaceTime. Michael sent a thumbs-up emoji, which I chose to interpret as enthusiasm. And Caroline, my baby, she'd called and said, "Mama, I'll bring the wine." The good stuff from that place in Charleston you liked. I got out of bed slowly. Everything was slow now, my knees announcing their age with every movement, and put on my bathrobe, the blue one Thomas gave me for our 40th anniversary. It was threadbare at the elbows, but I couldn't throw it away. Too much of him was already gone. Downstairs, the house was exactly as I'd left it the night before. Clean, orderly, ready. I'd spent Tuesday scrubbing the baseboards on my hands and knees, even though my doctor told me I shouldn't be doing that anymore. "Mrs. Holloway, you have help for that," she'd said at my last appointment, adjusting her glasses like she was talking to a child. But I didn't want help. I wanted my house perfect for my children. I wanted them to walk in and smell lemon polish and fresh flowers and remember what it felt like to be home. The kitchen still smelled like the lemon cake I'd baked yesterday. 3 layers, Italian meringue frosting. The recipe my mother brought from County Cork in 1955 when she emigrated. She made it for my first birthday, and I'd made it for every birthday since. For Daniel's first, Patricia's sweet 16, Michael's graduation, Caroline's wedding shower. The cake was family. The cake was memory made edible. I poured myself coffee from the pot I'd set to brew at 6 a.m. Added cream from the glass bottle the milkman still delivered every Thursday, one of the last roats left in Portland, and stood at the kitchen window looking out at the backyard. November had stripped the maple tree bare. Thomas planted that tree when Daniel was born 44 years ago, back when we believed in futures, in legacies, in roots that would outlast us. The day stretched ahead with 100 small tasks. I needed to start the pot roast by noon so it would be tender by 7. I needed to set the table with the good china, the Waterford crystal, the Irish linen napkins that required hand washing and ironing. I needed to arrange the flowers I'd picked up from the farmer's market on Wednesday. Chrysanthemums and asters, fall colors. Nothing too fancy. I needed to chill the champagne. By 8 a.m., I was already dressed, not in my everyday slacks and cardigan, but in the navy dress I'd bought from a boutique on Exchange Street for occasions like this. It had cost more than I'd normally spend, but the salesgirl, a kind young woman with a Portuguese accent, had said, "This is your color, señora. You look elegant." I wanted to look elegant for my children. I wanted them to see me as something other than old. The pot roast went into the oven at noon exactly, the kitchen filling with the smell of searing meat, red wine, thyme from the garden I still maintained in clay pots on the back porch. Thomas taught me to cook this dish our first year of marriage, back when I couldn't boil water without burning it. "Low and slow, Maggie," he'd say, his hand over mine on the wooden spoon. Good things take time. I peeled potatoes at the kitchen sink, the same sink where I'd bathed babies and washed scraped knees and cleaned paintbrushes from Daniel's art phase and Patricia's soccer cleats and Michael's turtle tank. Every object in this house held a story. Every room was a museum of us. By 3 p.m., the table was set, 5 places, one for each of my children, one for me at the head where Thomas used to sit. I debated setting 6, leaving his spot sacred, but that felt too sad, too much like I was stuck in the past. I was 90 years old. I was allowed to sit at the head of my own table. The china looked beautiful against the dark mahogany, white plates with delicate blue flowers, my grandmother's pattern. The crystal caught the afternoon light from the dining room window. I'd polished every glass myself, holding each one up to check for water spots. The linen napkins were folded into fans, something I'd learned from a library book in 1965 when I was trying to be the perfect housewife. I'd practiced on dish towels for a week before Thomas came home and asked, "What the hell are you doing, Maggie?" We'd laughed so hard I cried. I placed the centerpiece carefully, chrysanthemums in a low crystal vase, nothing too tall, because I wanted to see my children's faces across the table. I wanted to watch them talk to each other, to see if they still had that sibling shorthand, that way of communicating without words that they'd had as kids. The cake sat on the sideboard, waiting. 90 candles would be ridiculous. A fire hazard, Caroline had joked last week on the phone, so I'd bought one of those number candles instead. A gold 90, standing proud in the center of the white frosting. Looking at it made my chest tight. 90 years. Where had it all gone? By 5 p.m., I was sitting in the living room, hands folded in my lap, trying not to watch the clock. They'd said 7 o'clock dinner. That gave them plenty of time. Daniel driving up from Boston, Patricia taking the train from New York, Michael flying in from Seattle yesterday and staying at the Hilton downtown, Caroline driving up from Charleston. They'd all confirmed. They were all coming. I'd laid out photo albums on the coffee table, old pictures I'd carefully preserved in acid-free sleeves. Daniel's first day of kindergarten, gap-toothed and brave. Patricia in her Holy Cross graduation gown, the first in our family to finish college. Michael holding his first computer, some boxy thing he'd saved for with his paper route money. Caroline as a flower girl at her cousin's wedding, petals in her hair, pure joy on her face. I wanted them to remember, not just the facts of their childhood, but the feeling of it, the safety of it. I wanted them to remember that they were loved. At 6:30, I checked my phone. Nothing. But that was fine. They were probably all stuck in traffic or running late or coordinating carpools from the airport. Adult life was complicated. I understood that. At 7 o'clock, I stood in the foyer, straightening the small mirror by the door, checking my lipstick, making sure I looked put together. Not desperate. Not like an old woman who'd spent 3 days cooking for children who might have forgotten what home tasted like. At 7:15, I called Daniel. It rang 4 times, then went to voicemail. "You've reached Dr. Daniel Holloway. I'm with a patient." I didn't leave a message. At 7:30, I texted Caroline. "Honey, are you close? Traffic okay?" The message showed as delivered but not read. At 8 o'clock, I sat down at the dining room table, in my place at the head, and stared at the 4 empty chairs. The pot roast was resting on the stovetop. Perfect. The candles were lit. The house was ready. My phone buzzed. Finally. Daniel. "Mom, you've already passed your time for celebrating these things. It's not realistic at your age. We thought you'd understand." I read it 3 times, trying to make the words mean something different. Past your time. Not realistic. At your age. Patricia 2 minutes later. "Mom, you need to accept where you are in life. These big gatherings are exhausting for everyone. Maybe next year we can do something small." Michael. "Can't make it. Work emergency. Sorry." Caroline. A GIF. A single birthday candle flickering. "Thinking of you." I set the phone down on the table very carefully, like it might explode. My hands were shaking. The candles kept burning. The pot roast kept cooling. The champagne stayed chilled in its bucket, condensation running down the silver sides like tears. I stood up, my knees protesting, always protesting, and walked slowly to the sideboard. I picked up the cake knife, the one I'd sharpened that morning, and cut myself a slice. A corner piece with extra frosting, the way I used to cut them for my children when they were small and fought over who got the most icing. I brought the plate back to my seat at the head of the empty table and picked up my fork. The first bite tasted like cardboard, or maybe it tasted fine, and I'd forgotten how to feel anything except the thing expanding in my chest, the thing that felt like drowning on dry land. I took another bite, then another, eating mechanically, swallowing past the tightness in my throat. When the slice was gone, I cut another, and another. I didn't taste any of it. Somewhere around the 4th slice, I started crying. Not delicate tears, not the kind you can hide behind a napkin. The kind of crying that comes from your stomach, that makes you fold over your plate, that makes sounds you didn't know you could make. I cried for the pot roast no one would eat, for the table I'd set with shaking hands, for the photo albums no one would look at, for 63 years in this house, for 4 children I'd carried and nursed and raised and loved with everything I had, for a husband buried 11 years who would have made them come, who would have driven to each of their houses and dragged them here, if necessary. I cried because I'd become invisible, because somewhere along the way, maybe when Thomas died, maybe before that, I'd stopped being a person and become an obligation, an aging to-do list item, a guilt they could manage with text messages and gifts. Past your time. The candles burned down to nothing. The champagne went flat. The grandfather clock in the hallway, Thomas's grandfather's clock, brought over from Germany in 1898, struck midnight. I was 90 years old, and I'd never felt so alone. I sat at that table until the sun started coming up over Casco Bay, until the seagulls started their morning fights, until the cold November light turned everything gray again. And somewhere in those dark hours, something in me broke. Or maybe it didn't break. Maybe it woke up. I woke up still sitting at the dining room table, my cheek pressed against the cold mahogany, a crick in my neck that felt like someone had driven a railroad spike through my spine. For a moment, I couldn't remember where I was. Then I saw the empty plates, the burned down candles, the cake reduced to crumbs, and I remembered everything. The morning light was harsh, unforgiving. It showed every water ring on the table, every wrinkle in the linen napkins, every pathetic detail of my sad little party for one. I stood up slowly, my body protesting every movement. 90-year-old bones don't forgive sleeping in chairs, but the physical pain was nothing compared to the thing sitting in my chest, heavy and cold as a stone. I walked to the kitchen, filled a glass with water from the tap, and drank it standing at the sink. Outside the window, Mrs. Chen from next door was putting out her recycling bins. She waved. I didn't wave back. I couldn't pretend anymore. Couldn't perform the role of pleasant neighbor, grateful grandmother, woman who was fine, just fine. Thank you for asking. My phone sat on the counter where I'd left it last night. 47% battery. 3 new messages, all from Caroline, all sent after 2 a.m. Mama, I'm so sorry. I should have come. Please call me when you wake up. I stared at those messages for a long time. The thing about apologies is they require forgiveness, and I discovered something that morning. I didn't have any forgiveness left. I'd spent 90 years forgiving. Forgiving Thomas for working late. Forgiving Daniel for forgetting my birthday in 2003. Forgiving Patricia for moving to New York and visiting twice a year. Forgiving Michael for choosing his startup over his father's funeral. Forgiving Caroline for calling me Mama, like I was still relevant when she needed something. I'd spent 90 years being good, being understanding, being the one who bent so others wouldn't break. I was done bending. I opened my contacts and scrolled to Morris Hendricks. We'd gone to the same church for 30 years, St. Dominic's on State Street, before my knees got too bad for the stairs and I started watching Mass on the computer Caroline set up for me. Morris was a real estate attorney, the best in Portland, sharp as a tack at 72, with a reputation for getting things done fast. The phone rang twice. Margaret? That you? His voice was gravelly, suspicious. It was 6:30 in the morning. Morris, I need to sell my house. Silence. Then, what? My house. The Victorian on Munjoy Hill. I want it listed today. Margaret, it's Friday, day after Thanksgiving. Nothing happens in real estate during holiday weekends. I don't care. I want it listed. I want it sold, fast as possible. More silence. I could hear him breathing, thinking. Morris was good at reading between lines. What happened? Nothing happened. I'm 90 years old and I'm tired of this house. That's what happened. Where are you going to live? Portugal. He laughed. Actually laughed. Portugal? Margaret, you've never even been on an airplane. Then it's time I started. The laughter stopped. You're serious. Dead serious. Can you do it or not? I can do it. But Margaret, this is a major decision. Have you talked to your kids? Daniel's a doctor. He could help you think through. My children don't get a vote. This is my house. My name on the deed. Can you list it or should I call someone else? Another pause. Then, quieter. I can list it. I'll make some calls. House like yours? In that location? We'll have offers by Monday. Good. And Morris, I need you to draw up some paperwork. Estate stuff. What kind of estate stuff? The kind where I give away everything that isn't nailed down. Jesus, Margaret. Don't Jesus me, just do it. I'll be at your office at 9. I hung up before he could argue. The next call was easier. Sotheby's had an office in Portland now. The city had gotten fancy since the tech people moved in, and they specialized in estate sales. Fine furniture, artwork, antiques. Everything Thomas and I had collected over 60 years. Sotheby's Portland. This is Vanessa speaking. Hello. My name is Margaret Holloway, and I need to liquidate my entire estate. Today. Vanessa didn't miss a beat. Maybe rich people called at dawn all the time wanting to sell their lives. I see. Can you tell me a bit about the collection? Victorian furniture, all original. Waterford crystal, Irish linen, a Steinway piano from 1952. Some paintings. Nothing famous, but good quality. China, silver, books, everything. And your timeline. I'm leaving the country Monday. Everything needs to be gone by then. That's ambitious, but we can work with that. Let me get some basic information and we'll send an appraiser this afternoon. I gave her my address, my phone number, and my mother's maiden name for verification. The whole conversation took 4 minutes. Selling your life is surprisingly efficient. Third call, Tap Air Portugal customer service. I'd researched it last night while sitting at that table, while the candles burned down, while I made my decision. Tap Air Portugal, how may I help you? I need a one-way ticket to Lisbon, leaving Monday. Wonderful. Let me check availability. Departing from? Portland, Maine. Actually, no, Boston. I can get to Boston. Keys clicking. I have a flight Monday at 6:50 p.m., arriving Tuesday morning Lisbon time. Business class or economy? I almost said economy. 90 years of Depression-era frugality, of saving, of making do. But then I thought, why? What am I saving for? Business class. Excellent choice. And your return date? No return. One way. Oh, a pause. May I ask, is this for an extended stay? It's for the rest of my life. Another pause. That's wonderful, ma'am. A new adventure. Something like that. The ticket cost $3,000. I gave her my credit card without flinching. The same credit card Daniel had insisted I get for emergencies. The one he'd co-signed just in case. The one I'd used maybe 3 times in 8 years. This was an emergency, just not the kind he'd imagined. By 7:30, I'd showered, dressed in practical clothes, slacks, a sweater, my good walking shoes, and made myself eat toast with butter and jam, even though my stomach was in knots. My mother's voice in my head. Empty stomach makes poor decisions. Margaret Eleanor. But these weren't poor decisions. For the first time in maybe my entire life, these felt like the rightest decisions I had ever made. At 8 a.m., I called my bank. Spoke to Jerry Preston, the branch manager who'd handled our accounts since 1987. Good man, honest. The kind who remembered your birthday and asked about your grandchildren. Mrs. Holloway, happy belated birthday. How was the celebration? The question hit me like a fist. I steadied my voice. Jerry, I need to make some transfers. Large transfers. Of course. What are we looking at? Everything. Savings, money market, the CDs, the bonds Thomas left. Everything except what I need to live on for the next few months. That's substantial, Mrs. Holloway. May I ask the purpose? Are you making a major purchase? I'm making several donations. 3 charities. I'll give you the account information. Silence. Then, carefully. Mrs. Holloway, this is a very significant decision. Have you discussed this with Daniel? Or your financial advisor? I don't have a financial advisor. Never needed one. And Daniel doesn't get a say in how I spend my money. I understand, but there are tax implications, estate planning considerations. Jerry, I'm 90 years old. I'm giving my money away while I'm still alive to see where it goes. That's the plan. Can you execute it, or do I need to come down there in person? No, I can do it. But Mrs. Holloway, please, just sleep on it over the weekend. These things don't have to happen immediately. They do, actually. Because Monday I'm leaving the country, and I want this done before I go. Leaving. Where are you going? Portugal. I was getting tired of everyone's shocked silence. Jerry, these are my wishes. I'm of sound mind. Execute the transfers. Today. Yes, ma'am. I'll start the paperwork. I gave him the information. St. Andre's Home for Unwed Mothers, where Father Tom still ran that quiet place on the edge of town, helping girls nobody else wanted to help. Catholic Charities Maine, running the soup kitchen where I'd volunteered every Thursday for 20 years until my knees gave out, and the Portland Education Foundation, the scholarship fund for kids whose parents couldn't afford college. $743,000. Everything Thomas and I had saved, invested, protected, gone in 3-wire transfers. Jerry's voice was strained. Mrs. Holloway, this is your entire life savings. I know exactly what it is. What about your children? Their inheritance? And there it was. The question everyone would ask, eventually. My children are adults with careers and homes and lives. They don't need my money. These organizations do. But surely you want to leave something. I'm leaving them exactly what they gave me yesterday. Nothing. I hung up before my voice could crack. The house felt different now. Not like home anymore. Like a museum I was preparing to close. I walked through each room. The living room where Daniel took his first steps. The kitchen where Patricia learned to bake. The den where Michael built his first computer. Caroline's old bedroom with the pink wallpaper she'd chosen when she was 8. Every room was a ghost. At 9 o'clock exactly, I walked into Morris Hendricks' office on Middle Street. He had coffee waiting. Good coffee, the expensive kind. And concern written all over his face. "Margaret, sit, please." I sat, took the coffee. "You think I'm having a breakdown. I think you had a bad birthday, and you're making rash decisions. I'm not. I'm making the first clear decisions I've made in years." He leaned back in his chair, studying me. "Tell me what happened." So I did. Not everything. I couldn't talk about the empty table without crying, and I refused to cry anymore. But enough. The texts, the excuses, the past your time. Morris's jaw tightened. "Jesus Christ, I'm sorry, Margaret. Don't be. They showed me who they are. I'm choosing to believe them." He nodded slowly. "Okay, so, the house. I can have it listed by this afternoon. Photos tomorrow, open house Sunday. In this market with that location, you'll have offers by Monday. Close in 30 days if we push. Make it 20. I don't have 30 days. Margaret, 20 days, Morris. I'll take a lower offer if I have to. I just want it done." He sighed. "Fine. 20 days. Now, the estate planning. What exactly do you want to do?" I pulled out the list I'd made that morning. Everything in the house goes to Sotheby's. They're coming today to appraise. Whatever they can't sell, donate to Goodwill. The house sale proceeds, after your fees and closing costs, split 3 ways. St. Andre's, Catholic Charities, Portland Education Foundation. And your children get? Nothing. Morris set down his pen. "Margaret, I have to advise you, legally, ethically, this is going to cause problems. Serious family problems. Good. They could contest it. Argue you weren't of sound mind. Then I'll get a psychiatric evaluation. Today. Right now. Whatever it takes to prove I know exactly what I'm doing. You're really going to leave them nothing. Not even a token amount." I thought about that. About what would hurt more. Nothing. Or the smallest possible something. The legal minimum. Give them each $1. And a copy of their text messages from last night. Morris actually smiled. "That's cold, Margaret. That's fair." We spent the next hour going through paperwork. Power of attorney. I gave it to Morris, not to Daniel like I'd always planned. Healthcare directives. Updated will. Everything designed to cut my children out of every decision, every dollar, every last bit of control they'd assumed they'd have. "One more thing," I said as we were finishing. "My funeral arrangements. I want them changed." "Changed how?" "I'm prepaid at Evergreen Cemetery, next to Thomas. I want that refunded. Cancel the plot. Where do you want to be buried?" "I don't." "Cremate me. Scatter me in the Atlantic. I don't want a funeral. No service. Nothing they can attend and perform grief at." Morris was quiet for a long time. Then, "You're really never coming back." "No." "What's in Portugal?" "Nothing. That's the point. Nobody knows me there. Nobody has expectations. I can just be. You're going to be lonely." "Morris, I've been lonely in a house full of memories for 11 years. At least in Lisbon, I'll be lonely somewhere beautiful." He walked me to the door. This man I'd known for 3 decades, who'd drawn up our wills when Thomas was still alive, who'd handled the estate when Thomas died, who'd watched my children grow up from the pew behind us at St. Dominic's. "Margaret," he said quietly, "I think you're incredibly brave, or incredibly crazy. Maybe both. Probably both. Will you call? Let me know you're okay? Maybe. Eventually. You're really doing this. I really am. I left his office and walked down Middle Street toward the old port. Portland was beautiful that morning. Cold and bright. The kind of November day that makes you believe winter might be worth enduring. Tourists were already out, taking photos of the brick buildings and the fishing boats, buying overpriced lobster rolls at the waterfront restaurants. I'd lived here my entire life, 90 years in the same city, mostly in the same house. I knew every street, every shortcut, every tree. This was my place, and I was leaving it behind. I stopped at a bench overlooking the harbor, sat down, and finally let myself check my phone. 89 notifications. Missed calls. Daniel, 12. Patricia, 15. Michael, 8. Carolyn, 28. Voicemails, 23. Text messages, too many to count. Emails, 14. They knew. Somehow they knew what I was doing. I opened Daniel's texts first. Mom, Jerry Preston just called me. What the hell is going on? You sold the house without discussing it with us? This is insane. You can't make decisions like this alone. Call me immediately. We need to talk about your mental state. I'm driving up tonight. Don't do anything else until I get there. Patricia's were more legal. Mom, I've spoken with Daniel. This is financial elder abuse if someone is pressuring you. We need to establish whether you have capacity to make these decisions. I'm contacting an attorney. This can be reversed. You're not well. Let us help you. Michael's were brief. Seriously? You're giving away our inheritance? This is so fucked up. Don't expect me to take care of you when you run out of money. Caroline's broke my heart a little, despite everything. Mama, please. I'm so sorry about last night. We all are. Don't do this. We can fix this. I'm driving up right now. Please don't leave. Please. Mama, I love you. We all love you. Why are you doing this to us? I read that last message 3 times. Why are you doing this to us? Not, what did we do to you? Not, we're sorry we hurt you. But, why are you doing this to us? Even their guilt was about them. I turned off my phone. Actually powered it down completely. The silence was immediate and profound. A seagull landed near my bench, eyeing my purse like it might contain food. I'd forgotten to eat lunch, but food seemed impossible right now. I was running on something else. Adrenaline, maybe. Or fury. Or the kind of clarity that comes when you finally stop pretending. The Sotheby's appraiser was coming at 3. I needed to get back. I walked home slowly, taking in the city one last time. The cobblestones on 4th Street. The smell of fresh bread from Standard Baking Company. The sound of boat horns in the harbor. The way the light hit the brick buildings this time of year. I'd miss it. God, I'd miss it. But I'd miss who I used to be even more. And that woman was already gone. The house felt different when I got back. Not like home anymore. Like a stage set being dismantled. Like something ending. I made tea. Barry's Irish tea, the only kind I ever bought. And sat at the kitchen table with my mother's rosary beads. I hadn't prayed in months. Not since Thomas died, really. God and I had an understanding. I didn't bother him much, and he didn't expect me to forgive the unforgivable. But old habits die hard. I held the beads, smooth and worn from my mother's fingers, then my fingers, and I didn't pray exactly. I just sat there, holding them, feeling their weight. If there was any mercy left in the world, I'd find it in Lisbon. If not, at least I'd die trying. The doorbell rang at 3 o'clock exactly. Time to sell my life. The woman from Sotheby's was younger than I expected. Maybe 35, with perfect posture and an expensive-looking coat. She introduced herself as Vanessa Chen, and I realized she was Mrs. Chen's daughter from next door. The little girl who used to sell me Girl Scout cookies every spring had grown up to appraise estates. Mrs. Holloway, she said, shaking my hand firmly. I appreciate you thinking of us for this. Your mother raised you well. Seemed fitting. She smiled at that, then got down to business, pulling out an iPad and a measuring tape. I understand you're working on a compressed timeline. I'll do my best to be thorough but efficient. Take whatever time you need. I'm not going anywhere until Monday. We started in the living room. She photographed everything. The Steinway piano that Daniel had taken lessons on for 6 years before deciding he hated it. The Persian rug Thomas bought at an estate sale in 1978. The oil painting of Casco Bay that a local artist had done on commission for our 40th anniversary. This piano, Vanessa said, running her hand along the polished wood. It's in remarkable condition. Do you play? I did. Not anymore. Arthritis. It's worth at least $15,000. Probably more at auction. $15,000 for something that had been gathering dust for 20 years that nobody in my family wanted enough to visit. Good, I said. Price it to sell fast. She made notes on her iPad, moving efficiently through the room. The Waterford crystal lamps, the mahogany side tables, the grandfather clock that had come from Germany with Thomas's grandfather in 1898. This clock, she said, examining the mechanism. This is extraordinary. Late 19th century, still keeping perfect time. A collector would pay handsomely for this. My husband wound it every Sunday morning for 43 years. After he died, I kept doing it. Felt like keeping him alive somehow. Vanessa's expression softened. Where is your husband, if I may ask? Evergreen Cemetery, but not for long. I'm having him moved. She looked up sharply. Moved? Cremated. Scattered in the ocean. He always wanted to sail around the world. Never got the chance. This is as close as I can get him. I could see her trying to process that, trying to figure out if I was grieving or insane or both. She settled on professional neutrality. I see. Well, the clock should fetch between $8,000 and $12,000 at auction. We moved to the dining room. She stopped in the doorway, taking in the scene I hadn't cleaned up. The table still set with my grandmother's china, the burned down candles, the cake crumbs, the champagne bucket with melted ice. I'm sorry, I said. I had a dinner party last night. Haven't cleaned up yet. That's fine. But her eyes lingered on the 5 place settings, the untouched food in the kitchen. She was smart enough not to ask questions. She examined the china carefully, turning over each plate to check the maker's mark. Royal Dalton, early 20th century. Full service for 12? 16. My grandmother brought it from Ireland. I've never used all of it. Kept waiting for occasions big enough. It's beautiful. Complete sets like this, in perfect condition, are rare. I'd estimate $10,000 to $15,000 for the full service. $10,000 to $15,000 for plates we ate off of maybe 10 times a year, that I'd washed by hand, carefully, reverently, because they were family. The silver, she asked, nodding toward the candlesticks, the serving pieces, the tea service on the sideboard. All sterling, some pieces from the 1880s. She examined each piece, making notes, taking photos. Do you have documentation? Proof of provenance? I have my grandmother's immigration papers. She listed every piece of silver she brought over. Customs made her. Perfect. Documentation increases value significantly. We moved upstairs. She photographed the bedroom furniture. The 4-poster bed Thomas built by hand during our 2nd year of marriage. The vanity that had been my mother's. The quilts I'd sewn over 40 winters. These quilts, Vanessa said, examining the stitching. They're handmade. Everyone. Made them for my children when they were born. They didn't want them when they moved out. Too old-fashioned. She was quiet for a moment. Then, Mrs. Holloway, I don't mean to pry, but are you sure you want to sell everything? These pieces have enormous sentimental value. Sentimental value doesn't keep you warm at night. But your children, surely some of these things... My children made their choices. I'm making mine. She nodded slowly and continued documenting. The bedroom took an hour. Then Caroline's old room, still decorated in pink, with the teddy bear collection she'd abandoned when she went to college. Daniel's room, converted to a guest room that never had guests. Patricia's room, where I'd stored the Christmas decorations. Michael's room, now my sewing room, full of fabric and patterns I'd never finished. The books, Vanessa said, examining the built-in shelves in the hallway. You have quite a collection. Thomas was a reader. Literature, history, poetry. He'd read to me at night before bed. Even when his eyes got bad, he'd read until he fell asleep with the book on his chest. First editions? Some. He didn't collect for value. He collected what he loved. She pulled out a worn copy of Steinbeck's East of Eden. This is a first edition, 1952. In this condition, it's worth several $100s. You have maybe 200 books here, if even 10% of valuable first editions. Sell them all, every word. By 6 o'clock, she'd photographed and cataloged everything. We sat at the kitchen table, the only place left that didn't feel like it was already gone, and she pulled up her estimates on the iPad. Mrs. Holloway, I'll be honest with you. This is one of the most comprehensive and valuable estate collections I've seen in Portland. The total valuation conservative estimate is between $300,000 and $400,000. I felt nothing hearing that number. Just a strange emptiness. How quickly can you move it? We can do an online auction. Starts Sunday. Runs for 48 hours. High-value items will attract serious collectors. I'd say 75% will sell within a week. The rest within a month. I don't have a month. Then we price aggressively. Accept lower offers. We can clear everything in 72 hours if you're willing to lose maybe 20% of the value. Do it. She hesitated. Mrs. Holloway, that's $60,000 to $80,000 you'd be leaving on the table. I don't care about the money. I care about being free of it. Where is all this coming from, if you don't mind me asking? I looked at her. This young woman with her whole life ahead of her, with probably parents who showed up for birthdays and children who would visit on holidays, and I tried to find words that wouldn't sound bitter. I spent 90 years accumulating things, I said finally. Things I thought mattered, things I thought would outlast me, would keep my family connected. And yesterday I learned that none of it matters. Not the china or the silver or the piano or any of it. So I'm getting rid of all of it. Starting over. Starting over where? Lisbon. Portugal. Portugal. She closed her iPad. Mrs. Holloway, I think that's incredibly brave. Everyone keeps saying that. I'm not brave. I'm just finished. Finished with what? Being taken for granted. She didn't have an answer for that. She packed up her equipment, promised the auction would be live by Sunday afternoon, and let herself out. I sat in the kitchen as the light faded, as the house grew dark around me. I didn't turn on the lights. I just sat there, feeling the weight of 90 years lifting, piece by piece. My phone, still powered off, sat on the counter like an accusation. I knew what would be waiting when I turned it on. More calls, more messages, more demands that I justify my choices to people who hadn't justified their absence. But not yet. I wasn't ready yet. Instead, I walked through the empty house one more time. Each room echoed differently, without the promise of keeping it. The living room where I'd hosted book clubs and Christmas parties. The kitchen where I'd fed 4 children and 1,000 of their friends. The bedroom where Thomas and I had slept for 43 years, where he died holding my hand on a Tuesday morning. I stood in our bedroom doorway and tried to remember what it felt like to be young here. 27 and newly married. Thomas carrying me over the threshold, both of us laughing because he'd almost dropped me. The mortgage signing, the first night in our own bed, the morning I told him I was pregnant with Daniel. All of it felt like it happened to someone else. Some other Margaret who believed in permanence, who thought love and sacrifice were the same thing. The phone rang. The landline. The only number my children had that couldn't be turned off. I let it ring. 8 times. Then it stopped. 30 seconds later, it rang again. I picked it up. "Mom?" Daniel's voice tight with barely controlled anger. "Mom? What the hell is going on?" "I'm moving to Portugal." "This isn't funny." "I'm not joking. Morris says you sold the house. That you're giving away your money." "Mom, you can't do this." "I can. I am. We need to talk about this. I'm coming up tonight. Don't do anything else until I get there. There's nothing to talk about. Daniel, it's done." "Nothing's done. This can be reversed. If someone's pressuring you, nobody's pressuring me. This is my decision. You're not thinking clearly. Yesterday was. Look, we should have been there. We made a mistake. But you can't blow up your entire life because of one bad birthday. One bad birthday. Like that's all it was. Like it wasn't the culmination of 11 years of slow erasure. Daniel, I need you to listen to me very carefully. I'm 90 years old. I've spent my entire life being available for you, for your siblings, for everyone who needed me. I'm done. I'm leaving, and you don't get a vote. Mom, please, I love you. I've always loved you. But love isn't enough anymore. Love without respect is just obligation, and I'm done being obligated. What does that even mean? It means you told me I'd passed my time. So I'm taking the time I have left, and I'm spending it somewhere nobody knows me. Somewhere I can be more than someone's mother, someone's burden. You're not a burden. Then why didn't you come? Silence. Long and damning. It was complicated, he said finally. I had patients scheduled, and the drive is 5 hours, and I wasn't worth it. That's fine, I understand. But it goes both ways now. My inheritance isn't worth fighting for if I wasn't worth showing up for. This is about the money? No. This is about everything the money represents. You want me to die quietly in this house, leaving you my things, validating all the years you didn't visit by making sure you're taken care of. But I'm not doing that. I'm giving it all away, and I'm leaving. Mom, Jesus Christ, we can fix this. There's nothing to fix. This isn't a crisis. This is clarity. I'm coming up tonight. We'll talk about this rationally. Don't bother. I won't be here. I'm staying at a hotel until Monday. And Daniel, don't call again. I'll reach out when I'm settled, if I want to. I hung up before he could respond. The phone rang immediately. I unplugged it from the wall. The silence that followed was absolute. I went upstairs, packed a small suitcase. Clothes, toiletries, my mother's rosary, a photo of Thomas from our wedding day. Everything else could burn for all I cared. I called the Portland Harbor Hotel and booked a room for 3 nights. Waterfront view, the most expensive one they had. Then I called a taxi. I'd stopped driving 2 years ago, after I'd gotten confused at a stoplight and nearly caused an accident, and waited on the front porch as the November dark settled over Munjoy Hill. The taxi arrived. A young man, maybe 25, with kind eyes and a Portuguese accent. "Where to, senora?" "Portland Harbor Hotel." He loaded my suitcase in the trunk, helped me into the back seat with gentle courtesy. As we pulled away from the curb, I looked back at the house one last time. The windows were dark. The porch light I'd forgotten to turn off glowed alone in the darkness. 90 years in that house. 90 years of memories. And I felt nothing but relief to be leaving. "First time at the hotel?" the driver asked, watching me in the rearview mirror. "No. First time leaving home." "Ah. Visiting family?" "No. Running away from them." He laughed, thinking I was joking. "Family can be difficult, Sim." "Sim," I agreed, though I didn't speak Portuguese. Not yet. We drove through the old port, past the restaurants and bars filling with the Friday night crowd. Young people everywhere, laughing, living, taking up space in the world like they had every right to. I'd been young once. I barely remembered what that felt like. The hotel was beautiful. Restored warehouse building, exposed brick, harbor views, the kind of place Thomas and I had always said we'd stay for our anniversary, but never did because it seemed too expensive, too frivolous. I checked in with the credit card Daniel had co-signed. Let him see the charge. Let him wonder. My room was on the 5th floor, overlooking the water. I stood at the window looking out at the boats bobbing in the harbor, the lights reflecting on the black water, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Free, scared, angry, sad, lost, but free. I ordered room service, lobster roll, clam chowder, a glass of white wine I probably shouldn't drink with my medications, and ate alone at the window, watching the city I'd lived in my entire life go on without me. My phone was still off, would be off until Monday, until I was on that plane, until I was unreachable. They'd be panicking now, calling each other, strategizing, probably planning some kind of intervention. Patricia would be researching conservatorships. Michael would be calculating what he'd lost. Caroline would be crying, genuine tears, but still not understanding why sorry wasn't enough. And Daniel would be driving up from Boston, would go to the empty house, would see the Sotheby's stickers on everything, would finally understand that this was real. Too late. Everything was too late. I finished my wine, took my evening pills, blood pressure, cholesterol, the baby aspirin for my heart, and got into the hotel bed with its crisp white sheets and too many pillows. I'd slept in the same bed for 63 years. This felt like sleeping in a stranger's house. But it also felt like the first night of something new. I turned off the light and lay in the darkness, listening to the sounds of the harbor, the distant laughter from the bar downstairs, the hum of the city living its life. Somewhere in my old house, the grandfather clock was still ticking. By Monday, it would belong to someone else, someone who would wind it, who would listen to its chimes, who would care for it the way Thomas had. Everything I'd protected, everything I'd preserved would scatter to the winds. Nothing would stay together. The family collection would become 1,000 individual pieces in 1,000 different homes. And that felt right, because we were never really a family. We were just people related by blood, held together by habit and obligation and the inertia of tradition. I'd spent 90 years trying to be enough, trying to hold us together, trying to make love feel like what it looked like in my mother's stories about the old country, about family that meant something. But love that only flows one direction isn't love. It's martyrdom. And I was done being a martyr. I fell asleep listening to the water, dreaming of a country I'd never seen, where nobody knew my name, where I could be just Margaret, not Mom, not Grandma, not the woman whose children forgot her birthday, just Margaret, 90 years old, and finally free. I woke up Saturday morning in the hotel room disoriented, reaching for Thomas's side of the bed before remembering where I was. The harbor light came through unfamiliar curtains. For a moment, the panic was absolute. Where am I? What happened? Why does everything hurt? And then memory returned like cold water. I'd left. I was leaving. This was real. My phone sat on the nightstand, still powered off. I stared at it for a long time, the way you'd stare at a bomb you weren't sure was live. Eventually, I'd have to turn it on. Eventually, I'd have to face whatever was waiting. But not yet. I ordered breakfast from room service, coffee, oatmeal, fresh berries, and ate slowly at the window, watching the fishing boats head out into the morning fog. Saturday in Portland. The farmers' market would be setting up in Monument Square. St. Dominic's would have morning mass at 9. Mrs. Chen would be in her garden, even in November, fussing over her winter vegetables. My whole life had a routine. 90 years of Saturdays that looked more or less the same. Tomorrow, nothing would be the same. After breakfast, I showered, dressed in my good slacks and cardigan, and finally, turned on my phone. It took 3 full minutes to load all the notifications. 174 missed calls, 87 voicemails, 312 text messages, 43 emails. I sat on the bed and just stared at the numbers. They'd been trying to reach me for almost 24 hours. Frantic, desperate. The way I'd been frantic and desperate yesterday, checking my phone every 5 minutes, waiting for someone to show up. The irony wasn't lost on me. I started with the voicemails, the most recent ones first. Daniel, 3 a.m. Mom, pick up, please. I'm at the house. Everything's tagged for auction. What have you done? Just, please call me back. We can fix this. Patricia, 2:30 a.m. Mom, I've consulted with 3 attorneys. If you've been coerced or if you're experiencing cognitive decline, we can challenge these decisions. But I need you to call me. We need to establish your mental competency. Michael, midnight. This is insane. You're being insane. Do you have any idea what you're throwing away? That money was supposed to be for all of us. You can't just give it away because we missed one dinner. Caroline, 11 p.m., crying. Mama, please. I'm so sorry. I should have been there. I'll never forgive myself. But please don't do this. Please don't leave. We love you. We need you. Please. I listened to all 87 voicemails. They followed a pattern. Shock, anger, bargaining, desperate pleading. Not once did anyone say, "We're sorry we hurt you." Not once did anyone acknowledge what they'd done. It was all about what I was doing to them. The text messages were worse. Group chat after group chat, where they strategized about me like I was a problem to solve. Daniel, she's clearly not thinking straight. We need to get a psychiatric evaluation. Patricia, I can file for emergency guardianship on Monday if necessary. Michael, this is what happens when old people live alone too long. She's gone crazy. Caroline, stop it. She's not crazy. We hurt her. We all hurt her. Daniel, one missed birthday doesn't justify this. Caroline, it wasn't just one birthday. When's the last time any of you visited? Actually visited, not just FaceTime on Christmas. Silence in the chat for 20 minutes. Then, Patricia, that's not fair. We're all busy. We have lives. She knows that. Caroline, she's our mother. Michael, and she's acting like a child. I put the phone down. Read enough, seen enough. They still didn't understand. Maybe they never would. There was a knock at my door. Soft but insistent. I looked through the peephole. Caroline, my baby girl. 36 years old now, but still recognizable. Same green eyes, same dark hair. Thomas's dimples when she smiled. She looked exhausted, like she'd been crying all night. I opened the door. Mama, her voice broke on the word. Thank God. She moved to hug me, but I stepped back. How did you find me? I called every hotel in Portland. You weren't answering your phone, and I was so scared something happened. Something did happen. Thursday night. You remember Thursday? She flinched. Mama, I know. I'm so sorry. I should have been there. We all should have been there. But you weren't. I know. It was wrong. It was so wrong. But Mama, you can't throw your whole life away because I'm not throwing it away. I'm taking it back. By running away to Portugal? By giving away everything? Mama, this isn't you. How would you know what's me, Caroline? When's the last time you spent more than 2 hours with me? That's not fair, isn't it? Your brothers are in that group chat calling me crazy, calling me a child, talking about guardianship like I'm incompetent. And you? What, you're the good one because you drove up? Because you said sorry? I am sorry. I know you are. But sorry doesn't fix this. She stood in the hotel hallway, tears streaming down her face. And for a moment she looked 6 years old again, small and scared and wanting her mother to make it better. But I couldn't. Not anymore. Come in, I said finally. Don't stand in the hallway. She came in, sat on the chair by the window, twisted her hands in her lap the way she'd done as a child when she was nervous. I sat on the bed, keeping distance between us. "Tell me why," she said quietly. "Tell me what we did that was so terrible you'd leave the country. It's not what you did. It's what you didn't do. For years, Caroline. Years of me being available every time any of you called. Every crisis, every holiday, every time you needed me. And the one time I needed you. Just to show up, just to sit at my table and eat my food and pretend for one night that family meant something. You couldn't do it. I should have come. Yes, you should have. But that's not even the worst part. The worst part was the texts. Already past your time. Like I'm expired milk. Like at 90, I don't deserve to celebrate still being alive. Daniel shouldn't have said that. But he did. And none of you contradicted him. Not in that moment. Only now. Now that the money's gone. Now you all have opinions about how wrong it was. She was quiet for a long time. Then, is that what you think? That we only care about the money? I think you care about me when it's convenient. When it doesn't interfere with your lives. And I think you expected me to die quietly in that house someday, leaving everything in order, making it easy for you. But I'm not going to do that. So you're gonna die alone in Portugal instead? Maybe. But it'll be my choice, my terms, not yours. Mama, you can't mean that. You love us. I know you love us. I do love you. I've always loved you. But Caroline, love isn't enough. Your father knew that. Every Sunday he'd tell you kids, love is a verb. If you love someone, you show up. And I tried to teach you that. I showed up for every school play, every sports game, every graduation, every crisis. I showed up when your father died even though I wanted to die too. I showed up for all of you, always. And Thursday night, when I needed you to show up for me, nobody came. We made a mistake. No, a mistake is forgetting to pick up milk. This was a choice. You all chose. And now I'm choosing. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. The house, the money, all of it. You're really giving it all away? Already done. The auction starts tomorrow. The bank transfers went through yesterday. It's over. And us? Your children? We get nothing? You get what you gave me. Nothing. She looked like I'd slapped her. That's cruel. Is it? Or is it honest? It's both. I couldn't argue with that. We sat in silence. The distance between us suddenly enormous. This child I'd carried, nursed, raised, loved with everything I had. And somewhere along the way, we'd become strangers who shared blood and history, but nothing else. Will you call? She asked finally. From Portugal? I don't know. Mama, please, don't cut us off completely. We're your family. Family shows up, Caroline. That's what your father always said. Family shows up. We can do better. We will do better. Maybe. But I won't be here to see it. She stood up, walked to the door, then turned back. I love you, Mama. Even if you don't believe it right now. I love you. I believe you. But love without action is just words. And I'm done with words. She left. The door closed with a soft click that felt final. I sat on the bed for a long time, feeling nothing and everything at once. Grief and relief and regret, all tangled together like knotted thread. My phone buzzed. Daniel. Caroline says you're at the Harbor Hotel. I'm coming over. We need to talk. Room number? I turned the phone off again. I couldn't do that conversation. Not with Daniel, who'd always been the reasonable one, the logical one, who'd explained to me in his calm doctor voice why I was wrong, why this was a mistake, why I needed to reconsider. I'd spent 90 years reconsidering my dreams for their needs, reconsidering my hurt for their convenience, reconsidering my worth for their comfort. No more. I left the hotel through the back entrance, walked down to the waterfront, and spent the afternoon among strangers. I bought a coffee at a tourist shop and sat on a bench watching people live their lives. Families with young children feeding the seagulls, couples holding hands, elderly men playing chess near the dock. Nobody knew me. Nobody wanted anything from me. It was the most peaceful I'd felt in years. Around 3 p.m., I walked to St. Dominic's. The church was empty except for one old woman lighting candles in front of the statue of Mary. I hadn't been inside in months. The stairs were too much for my knees. But today I needed it. I slid into a back pew, the wood hard and familiar. This church had held my wedding, my children's baptisms, my husband's funeral. So much of my life had happened in these pews. I tried to pray. The Our Father, the Hail Mary, the prayers my mother taught me when I was small. But the words felt hollow. If God was listening, he'd been quiet for a long time. Instead, I just sat there in the silence, in the smell of incense and old wood, and I let myself grieve. Not for what I was losing. I'd already lost that. But for what I'd never had. The family I'd imagined. The love I'd believed in. The version of my life where sacrifice mattered. Where devotion was returned. Where showing up was mutual. Father Tom found me there an hour later. Tears on my face. Rosary beads in my hands. Margaret. He sat beside me. This priest who'd known me 40 years. I heard what happened. The donations. The house. All of it. News travels fast. In Portland, always. He was quiet for a moment. You're leaving Monday. That's very soon. It needs to be. And your children are adults who'll be fine without me. Will they? Or will you? I looked at him. This man who'd heard my confessions, who'd buried my husband, who'd watched my children grow up. And I tried to find an answer that wasn't bitter. I don't know, Father. I honestly don't know. Forgiveness is a powerful thing, Margaret. I know. I've been forgiving for 90 years. I'm tired. Then perhaps it's time to forgive yourself. For what? For being human. For wanting to be loved the way you loved. For being disappointed when you weren't. The words broke something in me. I cried then. Really cried. The way I hadn't let myself cry since Thomas died. Father Tom sat beside me saying nothing, just present, just there. When I could breathe again, he said, "This money you donated, the house proceeds. That will do enormous good. The shelter, the soup kitchen, the scholarships. You've changed lives, Margaret. It doesn't feel like enough. It never does. But it's something. And sometimes something is all we can offer." Is running away something too? You're not running away. You're walking towards something new. There's a difference. I'm 90 years old. How much new is there? He smiled. As much as you're willing to find. We sat together until the evening mass crowd started arriving. People who'd known me my whole life, who'd ask questions, who'd want explanations I didn't have the strength to give. I should go, I said. Will you come back? Before Monday? I don't think so. Then let me give you this. He pressed something into my hand. A small medal on a chain. St. Christopher, patron saint of travelers. For your journey. I'm not much of a traveler, Father. You are now. I walked back to the hotel as the sun set over the harbor, the medal warm in my palm. The city looked different in the evening light. Softer, kinder, like it was forgiving me for leaving. Back in my room, I finally turned on my phone one more time. 63 new messages. All my children, desperate and angry and scared. I typed one message to all of them. I'm safe. I'm leaving Monday. This is not up for discussion. I love you, but I'm done. Please don't contact me until I'm ready. Goodbye. I hit send before I could change my mind. Then I blocked all their numbers. The silence that followed was absolute and terrifying and perfect. Sunday morning came too fast. My last full day in Portland. The auction went live at noon. I watched on my laptop as strangers bid on my life. The piano sold in 20 minutes for $18,000. The grandfather clock went for $11,000. The china, the silver, the paintings, The furniture, all of it scattered to people who'd never know the stories behind each piece. I should have felt sad. I felt nothing but a strange lightness. By evening, 70% of everything was sold. Vanessa called to say the remaining items would go by Monday morning, that the final check would be ready Tuesday, that everything was proceeding perfectly. "How are you doing?" she asked carefully. "I'm leaving tomorrow." "I know. Are you ready?" "I don't know what ready feels like, but I'm going." "Mrs. Holloway, for what it's worth, I think you're doing something remarkable. Or something crazy. Maybe both. Maybe that's okay?" I packed my one suitcase Sunday night. It was surprisingly easy to reduce 90 years to 40 pounds of luggage, 3 dresses, comfortable shoes, toiletries, my mother's rosary, the photo of Thomas, the St. Christopher medal. Everything else could burn. I set my alarm for 4 a.m. The taxi was coming at 5. My flight left Boston at 6:50 p.m. But I wanted to be there early. Wanted to be unreachable, untouchable, gone. I didn't sleep. I lay in the hotel bed watching the harbor lights, thinking about Thomas, about my mother, about all the people who'd come before me, who'd been brave enough to leave everything and start over. My grandmother had done it. Left Ireland at 19 with nothing but a suitcase and hope. If she could cross an ocean at 19, I could do it at 90. At 3 a.m., I got a text from an unknown number. "Mama, it's Caroline. I'm using a friend's phone. Please don't go. Please, we need you. I need you." I stared at that message for a long time. She'd found a way around the block. Of course she had. I typed and deleted 3 responses before settling on. "You needed me Thursday. It's too late now. I'm sorry. I love you. Goodbye." Then I blocked that number too. At 4 a.m., and I was dressed and ready. At 5, the taxi arrived. Same young driver with the Portuguese accent. "Airport today, senora?" "Boston, Logan International." "Ah, you are going home to Portugal?" "Yes, I think I am." He smiled in the rearview mirror. "Portugal is beautiful. You will love it." "I hope so." We drove through Portland in the pre-dawn darkness, past the old port, past the hospital where all my children were born, past St. Dominic's, past the turn that would have taken me to Munjoy Hill. I didn't look back. The drive to Boston took 2 hours. I dozed, woke, dozed again. The driver played soft fado music, melancholy and beautiful. "This is Portuguese music," he explained. "Fado. It means fate, destiny. It's about saudade, a word that means missing something that maybe never was. That's a very Portuguese concept. Sim. Very sad. Very beautiful. Like life." At Logan, he helped me with my suitcase. Refused a tip. No. You are going to my country. This is my gift. Welcome home, senora. Home. A place I'd never been. Where I knew no one. Where I didn't speak the language. But maybe that's what home was supposed to be. Not the place you're from, but the place you choose. I checked in at TAP Air Portugal. The agent looked at my one-way ticket, my single suitcase, my 90-year-old face. "Traveling alone, Mrs. Holloway?" "Yes." "Family in Lisbon?" No family." She smiled kindly. "Then you make new family. Portuguese people are very warm." I made it through security, through the terminal, to the gate. Business class, window seat. The plane was boarding. My phone buzzed one last time. I'd unblocked the numbers just to see if there was anything at all, that might change my mind. Daniel. "Mom, you're making the biggest mistake of your life. Patricia, this is elder abuse, even if you're doing it to yourself. Michael, don't expect us to bail you out when you run out of money. Caroline, Mama, I love you. Please be safe. Please come home." I read them all. Then I powered off the phone completely. I boarded the plane, found my seat by the window, watched the ground crew loading luggage, fueling, preparing. A flight attendant came by. "Can I get you anything before takeoff?" "No, thank you, I'm fine." And I was. For the first time in years, maybe in my whole life, I was fine. The plane pushed back from the gate, taxied to the runway. The engines roared. And then we were lifting off, Boston falling away beneath us, the Atlantic spreading out endless and silver in the morning light. I was 90 years old. I was free. I was flying toward a life I'd never imagined, away from the one I'd built and lost. And somewhere over the ocean, 30,000 feet up, I finally let myself believe it. This wasn't an ending. This was mercy. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is save ourselves. Sometimes love means knowing when to walk away. And sometimes starting over at 90 is exactly what it means to finally start living. Margaret Holloway found her courage in heartbreak. She found her freedom in loss. And somewhere in Lisbon, on streets she'd never walked, in a language she didn't speak, she found herself. Not the mother, not the widow, not the woman who'd already passed her time, just Margaret. And that was enough. Nobody from the family came to my 90th birthday, saying I had already passed my time. I celebrated alone in tears. The next morning, I sold everything, packed my bags, left the country, and donated the inheritance when I picked up my phone. 63 missed calls.